The pursuit of happiness. It's something we're all after, but figuring out how to actually get it can feel, well, kind of overwhelming, right? Almost impossible sometimes. But what if I told you there was a blueprint, a real guide, based not on opinions, but on decades of actual scientific research? That's exactly what we're going to dive into.
So, let's start with the big question. What truly makes us happy? Now, of course, the answer is going to be a little different for every single one of us. But what's amazing is that all this research has given us a surprisingly clear blueprint, and it reveals a powerful truth. Happiness isn't just something that happens to you, it's a skill you can actively build.
First up, let's get on the same page about what happiness even means here. We're not talking about that quick thrill or a passing moment of pleasure. Nope, we're talking about something deeper, a sustained feeling of fulfillment. It's that sweet spot where your daily actions, your deepest values, and your overall mindset all just click. They're all working together in harmony. To get there, we're going to build our blueprint around 3 core pillars. First, the power of connection, then the drive of purpose, and finally, the art of mindset. After that, we'll see how to put it all together and start mapping out your own personal journey.
Okay, let's jump right into pillar number 1, the power of connection. And seriously, that subtitle is not an exaggeration. If you only remember one thing from this whole explainer, please make it this: the quality of your relationships is the single biggest predictor of a long and happy life, period.
And how do we know this? Well, the most powerful proof comes from the Harvard study of adult development. This thing is incredible. It's a research project that has followed the same group of people for nearly 80 years. Can you imagine? Tracking their lives from when they were teenagers all the way into their 90s just to find out what really keeps people happy and healthy across an entire lifetime.
And what they found is just wow. The study showed that close relationships predict a long, happy life better than your social class, your IQ, or even your genes. Now get this, your satisfaction with your relationships at age 50 is a better predictor of your physical health at age 80 than your cholesterol levels are. Just let that sink in for a second. And the flip side is just as stark. Loneliness can be as damaging to our health as smoking or alcoholism.
The study's current director, Dr. Robert Waldinger, summed it up perfectly. He said, "Good relationships don't just protect our bodies, they protect our brains." So it's not just about feeling good emotionally. These connections literally help keep our minds sharp and our memories clearer as we get older. It's a biological fact. All right, on to pillar number 2, the drive of purpose. So if connection is about our bonds with other people, purpose is really about our connection with ourselves. You can think of it as the internal engine that drives that lasting sense of fulfillment.
So what do we mean by a sense of purpose? Well, it's that feeling that your life has direction, that you're working toward meaningful goals. It's the core belief that you're contributing to something bigger than just your own day-to-day survival.
And this brings up a really key distinction. The research shows there's a huge difference between pursuing intrinsic goals, things like personal growth or helping your community, and extrinsic goals, like chasing wealth or social status. Think of it like this. Extrinsic goals are like a sugar rush. It's a quick hit that fades fast. But those intrinsic goals, that's like a healthy, nourishing meal. They provide that deep, lasting fulfillment.
And the best part is, you can totally cultivate purpose. It doesn't have to be some grand, world-changing mission. It can be as simple as making sure your daily tasks line up with your values, or getting involved in a cause you care about, or even just carving out time to learn something new that you're genuinely passionate about.
And that brings us to our third and final pillar, the art of mindset. This one is all about a major reframe. It's about seeing happiness not as some finish line you cross, but as a skill that you can actually practice and get better at every single day.
This idea is so incredibly empowering. It means your happiness isn't just set in stone by your personality or your circumstances. It's a skill. And just like any other skill, learning guitar, playing a sport, the more you intentionally practice, the better you get.
So here's one of the simplest, most powerful ways to practice, and it's backed by a ton of science. At the end of your day, just take a few minutes to write down 3 specific things you're grateful for. And here's the key part, step 3. Don't just write it, really savor the feeling. This simple act literally starts to rewire your brain, training it to automatically scan for the good stuff in your life instead of always defaulting to the negative. Gratitude, of course, is just one tool in the mental toolbox. Other crucial skills are things like mindfulness, optimism, and learning how to reframe your negative thoughts. And oh man, that last one on the list, avoiding social comparison, that is so critical in our world today. Constantly measuring your life against someone else's curated highlight reel is, I promise you, a guaranteed recipe for unhappiness.
Focusing on your own path is where it's at.
Okay, so we've got our 3 pillars: connection, purpose, and mindset. Now let's start putting it all together to build the actual blueprint. We're going to look at the role our circumstances play, and most importantly, the power of our own choices.
So researchers have actually tried to break this down in what some people call the happiness formula. It's a model that suggests about 50% of our happiness comes from our genetic baseline, kind of like a natural set point. And here's the shocker. Only about 10% comes from our life circumstances, like where we live or how much money we have.
But look at that. That leaves a massive 40%, and that is determined by your intentional activities. This is where your power is. That 40% is all about your choices, your mindset, your habits, everything we've been talking about with our 3 pillars. It's the space where you can actively build a happier, more fulfilling life for yourself.
Now, of course, other things create the foundation for this blueprint to really work. Your physical health, having some financial stability, even spending time in nature, these are all huge. They don't guarantee happiness by themselves, but they make it a heck of a lot easier to build strong connections, find purpose, and keep a positive mindset.
And speaking of financial stability, the research has put a fascinating number on it. A really famous study found that an income of around $75,000 a year is a kind of magic number. Up to that point, yeah, more money tends to increase happiness because it reduces daily stress. But after that point, more money has surprisingly little effect on your day-to-day emotional well-being. Pretty wild, right?
So, as we start to wrap this all up, it is so important to remember that this is a blueprint, not a rigid prescription. This is your personal journey, and these are the tools you can use to build a life that feels genuinely good and fulfilling to you.
So here's our whole blueprint in a nutshell. It starts with connection, making sure you nurture those close relationships, because it's the #1 predictor of well-being. Then, finding your purpose by going after what's truly meaningful to you. And finally, actively cultivating your mindset by practicing skills like gratitude, all of which is supported by a healthy lifestyle.
So, really the most crucial takeaway is this. Happiness isn't some final destination you arrive at one day. It's a journey. It is a personal blueprint that you get to design, build, and then continuously tweak and refine throughout your entire life.
And that leaves us with one final question for you to think about. Looking at these pillars, connection, purpose, and mindset, which one of these will you focus on building up first?